Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Jordan Elsass. You might recognize me from the show Superman and Lois. You, my friends, are watching Completed It with Andy Burrows. It's your one-stop shop for everything pop culture related. Enjoy the show. I know I sure do.
Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Completed It. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and as you can see, I am joined by my illustrious co host and good friend, Mr. Sacha Alari. Sash, how are you, sir?
Hi guys, how's it going? Everyone
Good.
having a good week?
Good to be back talking movies. And Sash, we have a guest with us this week. You might have heard of this guy. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Our guest this week is none other than Hollywood royalty himself, Mr. Tom Arnold. Tom, how are you, sir?
Geez, I'm good. How are you guys doing? Nice
We're
to.
good, man. We are good. Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
Where are you guys? Local.
So I am about 40 minutes outside of London.
Mhm.
And
Sash?
Oh,
I'm ingrained in London. I'm in a place called Harrow,
mhm.
most famous for Harrow on the Hill, where Churchill went to school,
Oh yes.
and
Oh
they
yeah.
filmed the movie The Saint there. And I think some of the Harry Potters were
Something a
filmed there
Harry
as well.
Potter,
So
yeah.
yeah, at that school.
Good. Okay, now we know. I'm in Los Angeles. Different.
Nice weather. Oh dear.
Uh, it's okay today. I'm looking outside. You never know.
Yeah,
Very
def.
hot yesterday. 98 degrees.
Wow.
Stupid, stupid hot.
Wow. Tom, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on our show. Really, thank you so much for joining us. Did you ever think, Tom, that when you got into acting, it would take you where it has taken you? Obviously, I'm guessing you've spoken about it a thousand times. You know, we mentioned True Lies. We're going to get into how it all started as a writer with Roseanne and going into the great world that I love of stand-up comedy, which is, I know that it's really, really close to your heart. Obviously, you've been through so much within your lives. You've had a mini stroke. Sobriety's played a big part in your life, but did you ever think that life would pan out the way it has for you, Tom?
Well, yes, yes, I did. I was maybe I was delusional, but I grew up in a small town in Iowa, a small farm town, and I knew that I wanted to get out of there, you know. To me, my dad when I was young, I'm a single dad. My kids are 11 and 9, and my dad was a single dad, and he the only time we heard him laugh, really laugh, was when there was a Bob Hope special on TV. Bob Hope was a comedian, born in England, by the way, but he would have these specials in the 60s or early 70s where he'd go around to Vietnam or this or Korea or whatever. And he'd entertain the troops and he'd bring pretty women and he'd do double entendre jokes, which my dad loved. And I remember thinking, whatever it is that Bob Hope does, I'm going to do. And so one of the first things I did, I moved here in 1988 from the Midwest to Hollywood, was I did a Bob Hope special. And it was great. And Bob Hope was so nice. And he called my dad. He signed all this stuff for my dad. And so my dad, in the same living room, same TV that he used to watch Bob Hope when I was, this big, is now seeing his son stand next to Bob Hope on TV and do this. So that's kind of a magical thing. And then once I did that, I go, okay, that's it. I didn't think too far beyond that.
That's
But
cool.
you know, I think it helps to be kind of crazy, or because I was pretty certain if I could keep my shit together and not get in trouble, that I would have an opportunity to be on TV or to do these things that were pretty fantastical for where I've come from. It's not something anybody had ever considered. It's not reasonable. Uh, but I thought if I keep it together, I will. And I came close a few times to screwing it up. I grew up, it's a rough area there. And a lot of drinking, fighting, police. And, I got myself in a whole bunch of trouble. And I do remember being in the back of a squad car, handcuffed behind my back, thinking, okay, That's it. I gotta, um, I worked on the kill floor of a meatpacking plant for 3 years after high school to save money to go to college. I wanted to go to the University of Iowa. That's a real college here. They have a stage up there. And I thought if I get up there and get on that stage, we'll all be famous in 6 weeks. And of course, that's not how things go. But my third year at the meatpacking plant, I started thinking, maybe this is crazy. How do you get from Ottumwa, Iowa to Hollywood? I can't even figure out how that happens. And went out drinking one night with my buddies, and we came out of our disco and just got to Ottumwa, 10 years after it was everywhere else. And I saw on the curb was a guy named Andy Kaufman, and Andy Kaufman was a great comedian, and he was on the show Taxi, very respected, different, and he was studying transcendental meditation 20 miles from my house at a place in Fairfield, Iowa, called the Maharishi International University. And so he'd been there. He came down to my hometown because we had a women's wrestling event at our Coliseum, and he was wrestling women at the time. And he went to it, and then he paid the women to stay later so he could practice. And then he took the whole audience in school buses over to Happy Joe's Pizza. You guys don't know Happy Joe's Pizza, but it's very good. It's very good if you're violent. But a lot of calories, very terrible for you. But and I thought I went up and talked to him for a little bit, and I said, "That's the guy. That's what I want. I want to be the guy that can take everybody to Happy Joe's Pizza." And I also realized he could get here from Iowa. If there's a tube back and forth, he came to Ottumwa, Iowa, from Hollywood, so there must be a way back. So it gave me the courage to leave the meatpacking plant, and plus I got fired.
Yeah, that's always a little bit of a push.
Yeah, I'm Jewish, but we have a big pork processing plant there where my grandpa had worked for 50 years. Like, it's just what you do. And it was called Hormel. And I'd started community college. That's a junior college during my third year there. Because I'm like, all my friends are at a real college, having real college experiences. I am so jealous. I want to have a real college experience. So, because I am a college student and a factory worker, but now I'm both. So I called in sick one night because I was working night school to school during the day, and because there was a college party, a community college party, and so my buddies and I go, we're going to that party, man. We're going to have a college experience. So we go to it, and it ends about 8 o'clock because the average age of the person in community college is 62, I think. So it was very disappointing. So on the way back to the dorm, I say to my buddies, "Oh, I know something we could do that college kids do. We're going to go streaking. We're going to go. So we took our clothes off. Me and Mike and Mo. I'm still friends with them to this day. And we went downtown to our diner, Mr. Quick's, and we ran. We put our shorts on our head, ran in there, jumped up on the table, started, and there was no one there. I swear to God, there was no one in there. And our buddy that worked in the kitchen, wouldn't even come out to humor us and look at us. So very disappointed. So on the way back, I say to my buddy, I know where there are people right now, a lot of people at Jefferson Square Manor, the old folks' home. We're going to go there. We're not pervs, not for the old folks. We're going to do it for the nurses who we know and who will think it's hilarious. And of course, they did not think it was hilarious. Story of my life. So they called the police. And by the time we get out of there, the police have surrounded our car. It's a small town. And so Mo and Mike and me, three big fat naked guys, jump in the back seat, and we're trying to put our shorts on. And all of a sudden I say, we're rubbing asses. I'm like, guys, we're busted. I know. I'm going to step out of this car and put on my shorts like a human being. And as soon as I stepped out of the car, the cop grabs me and handcuffs me behind my back. And this is December in Iowa. This is like the worst. And everybody I knew, it was right on Main Street. You have a dream where you're in high school and you're giving a speech and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm in my underwear. This was worse. Everything because we know the cops. It's a small town. I'm like, hey, take the cuffs off for a second, please. Let me get a little blood flowing down here. But no, they're being weirdos. And so they take me to jail naked. And then my dad, this is the seventh time he said to bail me out. And people always say, I bet that was hard for your dad having to get you out of all that trouble. And I'd always say, oh, he didn't give a shit. No, he didn't give a shit. And the moment my son was born, I realized, oh, he did give a shit.
Yeah.
He gave a shit about everything. So he comes down. My dad's the nicest guy in our town. He's a community leader, the head of the Chamber of Commerce, and none of the shenanigans. And he said, hey, Sheriff Irwin said you and Mike and Bo ran naked through the old folks' home. I know he does some crazy stuff, son, but that's despicable behavior. I didn't think. I go, Dad, forget. Sheriff Irwin's a freaking liar. I wouldn't sully our family's name by doing something like that. You know me better than that. He goes, I didn't think so, Tommy. And I go, can I have my underwear? Because I'm still naked. He couldn't face the reality. And I get that being a parent. You're like, I cannot, this does not compute. And my sister, there's a documentary series about her. And I think it's available where you are, called The Queen of Meth. My little sister was the biggest drug dealer in America. And people
wow.
are like, yeah, people, it's a pretty good documentary series.
Okay.
People,
did not know that.
but people are like, was it embarrassing having your sister be a drug dealer? And I'm like, not when I was doing drugs. It wasn't when she got arrested, and it's a big, if you see how it went down, it's a big deal. And my dad's like, Tommy, did you know Lori was a drug dealer? And I'm like, Dad, everybody knows she's a drug dealer. Everybody. And, yeah, that's, so, I got fired if you get arrested for public nudity in an old folks home in a small town, it will be in the paper. And your boss at Hormel will read it and realize and I called in sick and you will get fired. So that forced me to make my move. And I didn't have quite enough money. So I did a thing where I came up with this with my friends, and I came up with this kind of thing to raise money, where I would walk from Albee, Iowa to Ottumwa, Iowa, from here to there in underwear, it was called. It's 21 miles, middle of winter, and people would pledge. And the whole community and the people around the little towns all got so involved in it, supporting this thing. And, we had cars. My buddy's dad owned the car dealership, so we had like NASCAR, or how they have the logos all over. Mm-hmm. And so I did that. I made enough money to pay for college, and so then I got to the University of Iowa, and things changed, because then I got to work with real comedians who would come down from Minneapolis or Chicago, and my friends, we'd all go. I had a lot of friends, and we'd all drink Everclear Punch, which is a powdered Gatorade, and Everclear. Everclear is like 190, and we'd all drink that. Then I go on stage. My friends would think I'm super hilarious, and then we'd all leave. 50 guys leave. There'd be nobody there for the real comedians. So the next time the guy at the club, he said, if you get your friends to stay to watch our comedians, I'll give you a job in Minneapolis at a comedy club. And I'm like, oh, they'll stay. So they say, next day I get my stuff. I got a trash bag full of clothes and $100. And I took a bus up to Minneapolis, and I went to the door of the comedy club, and I said, I'm here. I got no car or nowhere to live, so I got to live somewhere close. And so could you recommend? He said, whoa. No. The job I promised you was one weekend for $20. And I'm like, well, shoot, I'm here. So I went to the nearest bar. They had this huge bar that served beers from all over the world. And I met a waitress there who was looking for a roommate. 5 of us living together, $100. And so then things started to go. I had to work real jobs. Mm-hmm. I had to be on the road for no money, sleep in the back of people's cars or on people's couches. And I loved it. Now I think like, oh, there's no way. How did I do that? But I kept thinking, this is getting me towards my goal. And right when I moved to Minneapolis, 1983, how long ago was that? 42 years? Jesus.
Yeah, I was 3 years old, Tom.
Yeah.
We both were. Yeah.
I was 23. So, but I met my first ex-wife. I have 4 ex-wives, and you could have 3 ex-wives and still kind of go, yeah, crazy bitches, But if you have 4 ex-wives, you go, holy shit, it's me. So it is me. It's me.
Henry VIII felt.
Yeah. I like the way he divorced people, but he, but I haven't had a date in 8 years. Plus, I got these kids, and it's so. I met Roseanne. Roseanne was a comedian. That was the club owner said I saw a woman in Denver. She wasn't famous yet, but he said you're really going to like her. You guys work well together. I want you to do the next weekend, the two of you. We really did hit it off. She's older, which I liked. She was 7 years older than me. She had kids, and I liked that. And like she was set and settled. And so we had a great time. We partied a lot, and every 3 months or so, we to do these little tours. She'd come back, and it was a lot of fun. And then she, after the first year, said, "Well, would you please write some jokes for me? You know my character very well. I want to go on TV and do jokes." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." So then I became a writer. I was a stand-up comedian. Now I'm like, I'm a writer. And so she'd go on the Johnny Carson show and do jokes I'd written. I'd be back in the Midwest watching, like, oh my God, that's how it works. Look, my jokes are on TV. So she did an HBO special in '87, asked me to come out to play her dream husband. But by then, we're still friends. We're like, I'm not thinking anything. In fact, I have a fiance. I'm just saying, man, her real husband, who she got divorced from, was her real husband, and then I was her dream husband. I don't know how that works, but then the next year she said they're starting a TV show for me, Roseanne, and first she wanted me to play her husband, and so I'm like, boy, I don't think I've done some community theater, but I'm not sure. That's but I went out and we went out and we met the other producers and I did a reading for them, and it was not good. Thank God, because John Goodman is such a good actor.
Oh yeah, great actor.
I said I really wanted to write the show. That was the thing. I'm going to go and write the show, and that's going to be a great opportunity, and it'll be fun. And so that's what I ended up doing for 6 years. I executive produced, wrote. I started acting a little bit on the show, and I acted on the show because the second year of the show, 1989, by then Roseanne and I were a couple. Everybody knew it. And so the other writers like, you got to be on the show, man. People will watch that. I'm like, okay. So they write an episode, and I go on the show, and I do pretty well. There's a lot of pressure, but I do pretty well. And then I realized, oh, I'm an actor now. I was a comedian, then I was a writer. Now I am an actor. And to this day, I'll do whatever job is. I'm directing a movie right now, and I'm directing this movie because I was in this movie and I wanted to get paid, and the director had a falling out, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to get paid. It's going to push it. I'll direct it, I tell him. So I've been going around and we have our locations, and I haven't directed for 30 years, but I'm going to direct it so we get this movie done, so I get paid for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. What was
so you're directing a movie right now, or you are? That's amazing, because I actually had that written up as a question to ask, whether you felt like when's a good time, because I did see you did direct something before in regards to Roseanne. So I was always thought this guy should be doing independent film and stuff, man, because you're a natural writer, obviously, in stand up, and obviously you wrote on Roseanne for many years and stuff. Like, well, why is it taking this long to do this? This is amazing, man.
It's a huge pain in the ass. Let me tell you something. You got to be there. We're out. I'm with the DP looking at the shots of all these different places. It's some big boy stuff. I mean, you have to be. You don't just show up and do your shit and leave town. So, but I think it's great. I think it's meant to be the opportunity. We were supposed to start this movie in January in the Pacific Palisades. That's where we're filming, and that burned down, the Pacific Palisades. So I'm like, okay, that's disappointing, but that's going to push the movie. And then the director thing, and now that's going to put. I was like, I'm going to do this, but I really like the writer is a friend of mine, and he knows he's on top of what he's thinking, which is good. And so I just have to, my thing is working with it's a bunch of young people mostly, and yeah, I can work with young people, young actors, and so yeah, this is not exactly what I had planned, but it's good. It's good that I'm doing this, and you always got to keep revenue streams are going. Again, my son, who's 11, will say, "Daddy, why don't you have a Lamborghini?" I'm like, I could have a Lambo, but 8 years ago I got you guys. And Ford, I'm not kidding. Ford is so expensive. The last movie I did this fall, what is called Drag Pyres. You know, you do these horror movies. By the way, horror fans are the best fans. You do the Comic Con, and the last one I did of those, the woman down, two doors down or two tables down, was in the original Exorcist for 17 seconds. And she had a line of people out. I'm like, I got to do some horror movies.
Yeah, I need to try and get into these.
So this movie was called Drag Pyres, and it's a vampire that drag. So yeah, I always try to think of something different. And originally they wanted me to play one of the drag pyres, but it's makeup and just I would come off as a disgusting. Well, there's nothing about me that I could make look attractive. I do see a lot of people that are trans women that are very, very, very attractive, and that's. But I knew I couldn't. And they said we do a small part, fly in, fly out of Atlanta, and I said yeah, and they sent me the part, and I play a guy, a redneck, racist kind of guy in the South that gets killed by a drag pyre. And that the way that I get killed is, which I liked, was that the drag pyre would pull my penis off and I would bleed to death. Because you always look at a different way to get killed. Plus, my thing is, as soon as I get killed, then I get to leave. So I'm always like, when do I die? I do a lot of these. And if they go too long, because they always want me to do like 50 pages in 3 days, I'm like, yeah, that's not good. I haven't even read them. So at the end, I'll work 12-hour days. And when it gets to 11 and a half hours, I'll go to the director, you have to kill me now. Because they want to put me through the whole way. They're like, okay, we'll change everything. We'll kill you. But anyway, my manager, who has apparently no sense of humor, said, okay, you want to do this? I said, yep, but I want more money if I have to use my real penis. That's a joke, right? So by the time I get down there, I see the director of this movie, and I said, where's the penis? Because I thought they'll have a prosthesis penis that I could sell. Also, people will bring those to stand in line. I'll sell them.
Comic Con.
People bring ice cream trays because of something I said in True Lies, that about ice cream. So I'm like, yeah, that'll be my annuity. But the director's like, oh, your manager said you didn't want to do it. So we've got this piece that pulls your neck out and rips your throat out. That's how you die. I go, no, I want the penis. I want the penis. We have to get this together. And so, that's how I died. I don't know if anybody will ever see the movie. I did a couple years ago a movie in the UK that was sort of based on, it was like a Frankenstein, modern day Frankenstein. And I played Dr. Frankenstein. And there's a bunch of young actors from out there. They're very good. But the Frankenstein monster that I created was totally naked, a super hot guy with, like a model with great abs. He was naked the whole time. That was because it's a modern day. He would, by the way, if you made a monster, they'd be naked. They wouldn't come with clothes. You put all the parts together. So I felt so sorry for this kid because he had to do these long shots where he's in the bush and they follow him right up to the camera. I don't care how confident you are about your body. That's a lot. And he was actually like, can I start in the bushes a little bit, closer? But it was great fun. It's great fun to film there for sure. And so, yeah, I do whatever. I've been 50 movies, 4 good ones. And I'll do whatever there is. I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have that opportunity.
No, it is really good. Tom, did you ever think when you were doing Roseanne, first of all, going from writing that show to being on it, did you think it would go as big as it went? Because I remember growing up, it was on Channel 4 here, right, Sacha? It was on Channel 4, Roseanne.
That was one of the biggest shows.
It was probably one of the biggest
Yeah.
shows when I was growing up. So for you, for starting out, like you say, you were standing on a stage telling jokes. Then you're writing it, and to be in what is still now considered, we're sitting here in 2025, and Roseanne still now is many people's one that considered to start it all. It was long before Friends. It was long before How I Met Your Mother. All these shows, Roseanne was kind of like the original. When you were writing it and then when you went into acting in it, did you think it would go as big as it did?
Well, first of all, I knew that Roseanne was a great comedian. Like from the first night, I'm like, she is great. She is up there and dealing with men hecklers and dealing with, and she thought I was great. She thought I was funny. And that, if you're a man, we know we're good looking, but if a woman tells us we're funny, then they got us. But I had total confidence in her. So when we started in 1988, right away, we're the number one show in America. Like it happened fast. So of course, what else would I compare it to? This seems like, and we had a lot of these great people. I hired all my writers from my friends from the Midwest to write. They were comedians, and because I knew if you're funny, which you can't fake that, and you have a point of view that's a little stilted, I will teach you how to write a script. Here's the form: first act, second act, play. This is how we do it. But you can't teach people to be funny, and so we took advantage of that, and it was great. And the show. When I was the first episode I did on the show, because it was me and we were the tabloids, a couple. 48 million people watched it in America.
Wow.
So that these days, if 4 million people watch your show, it's a hit show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's and we do. It is there were some shows in the early 70s that really we considered sort of the sister or the father or the uncles of that show. All of the Family, which I think was Steptoe's son. I think guys. But those kind of shows broke a lot of ground, and so we were, we thought, well, and nobody'd ever seen somebody like Roseanne starring on a show like that. Like,
what was that like for you, Tom? Obviously, being when you got married to Roseanne, with everyone loving the show, but then what's meant to be a private life, and I get it, it's Hollywood. There's not much that is private when you're on TV. What was that like for you as a couple? Having you're producing and you're starring in this great show, and everyone's loving it, but then you're also getting people asking questions about, oh, what's it like being married to the woman that you starred with, and then people start prying into your private life. How do you deal with that whole situation?
Well, again, I'm very proud of her. So people will in the press try to compare. Well,
Mm-hmm.
she's a star, he's that. How could that be okay for a man? Well, I was very proud of her, and it doesn't suck to make $1 million a week. I'm going to tell you that I
I'll let you know when it happens, Tom. I'll give you a call.
I got to be a stepdad to her kids. She had teenage kids, and I was like 28, 29, and I'm like, yeah, this is fulfilling another one of my dreams, which is to have a family.
Mm-hmm.
And she also was crazy like me. We had a lot of fun. I mean, we got into a lot of trouble. And when you have that kind of power over the media, where you could call up the news, they'll put you on the news. They'll put, wherever we went, people were, camped out. And I think our mistake was that, because then we knew, oh, we could control the tabloids. We could, and you can't, because they want something negative or something, whatever. And it became the marriage. We were very tight in at first, because it was sort of us against the world, but then the exterior stuff, the press, that became more important than than home stuff. Putting on this show constantly for whoever, and I think that hurts a marriage. I think you can be married or have a relationship when you go, what's this really about? It's about the human beings here. This other stuff is bullshit. It means nothing. So, yeah, I think that, but also I think that we both, even though we were married 4.5 years, it was a long 4.5 years. I mean, we both did everything we could to, and perhaps we were too similar. And there is the pressure of working on the show. There's pressure of telling me, having to say, you can't do that, or here's the episode for this week. And but first, it was great. The first 2 years where I'd say, here's what we want to do for the season or for whatever. And, she always had a lot of great input. All the actors on that show, John Goodman, Laurie Metcalf, all of them, we'd write the episodes, read them on Monday, go home. And then Tuesday, the actors would kind of put it up on the stage a little bit and walk through it, and they'd make it better, but better. And then we'd have the network come in on Wednesday and see it. We block it out, see it, and then we'd have the audience come on Thursday. And we'd shoot the show. We'd shoot it in the morning without an audience, so we had everything. Then the audience comes in at 7, and the audience shows are always better because they're. And then so it's 4-day weeks, and then we fly to Iowa to our farm or the weekend, and but yeah, it worked. It worked, and but then it didn't. Then it was my first marriage, so I'm like, well, it has to work. You got to keep. Have I done enough? And so when it blew up very big and very public, and people were like, yeah, Tom Arnold is a gold digger. He's riding her coattails. He'll never work again. He'll be back in Iowa in 2 weeks. And I remember thinking, that's probably true. But when I go back to Iowa, I worked for 6 years on one of the best shows on television. I'll be able to tell my grandkids about that. Now, James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger are like, fuck those people. True Lies comes out in a month or whatever. That's going to change everything. I really believe. I was like, oh God, I wish I could believe that, but it really did. Went from this is a spring of 1994 to hate me, and then this movie comes out that people are. They didn't know me when they were hating me, and they still didn't know me, but they saw this movie like, hey, he's good. He's good in this movie. He must be a good guy. So I am very grateful that I had that opportunity because it's crazy that I would be cast in that movie. I hadn't done much movie stuff, and for James Cameron to go, no, he's the guy, and he's going to do him and Arnold are just great together, and Jamie Lee. And I'm going to put it was the most expensive movie ever made at the time too. So there was a lot on Jim Cameron and me, and the after in fact my agent, there was real actors auditioning for my part. I know, I can see in the papers. And one day my agent called up from William Morris, it was called at the time, goes, hey, James Cameron wants to meet with you for that part of True Lies. And I go, that's bullshit. There's no way. Yes, this is a mercy meeting. And here's what agents do. They call up directors, producers. They say, we do a lot of work together. Would you please have a mercy meeting with this guy? We know you're not going to cast him. But at the time they were afraid Roseanne and I were leaving William Morris. So I almost didn't even go to the meeting because I'm like, I have some self-esteem. So, but then I thought, you know what? I want to meet James Cameron. How else am I going to meet James Cameron? I love his work so much. So I went over to his office. We're sitting there, and he's very nice, very cool, and he's not like a regular director. He's like a 6'3" raw bone Canadian guy that's driven a truck. He's like that guy. But after a little bit, he's like, okay, well, would you do the audition scene? I was like, I got to be honest, I didn't even read it and he's like, what? I go, yes, I know I'm not getting the movie. So it seems like it would hurt less if I didn't even try, which is a lesson I want to get. And then he's like, oh, well, it's 3 pages. Will you just read it for me once? And I read this for him one time, and he said, he yells upstairs, hey, get Arnold down here. Like, I didn't know Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the loft upstairs.
Oh, wow.
And then here comes freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger. I knew about him in the meatpacking plant. Like, he's walking down the stairs, and James Cameron said he cast me because as we're watching Arnold walk down the stairs, I said, I can take him. You know how you are as a man. You're like, how would I get? Yeah, I get it. But then Arnold and I did it one time. Great, amazing chemistry as we still have to this day. And he's like, okay, you got the part, but don't tell anyone for 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, I swear to God, I won't tell anyone. The best news of my life for 2 weeks. You can count on me. And I go, I have to go to my car and make some calls right now. So I go out, call everybody I know, all my buddies in Iowa. Nobody believes me. No, my own wife thinks I'm back on drugs. And that night, I'm washing my face, I look at myself and I go, wait a minute, maybe that didn't happen. Maybe I am crazy. Because why would he ask me to wait 2 weeks to tell him? And the reason he asked me to wait 2 weeks, I found out after the movie came out, because he didn't want to hurt my feelings. He went from the meeting we had, my audition, to Fox Studio, to the CEO, to the head, and he said, great news, we can start filming True Lies. I found the third guy after Arnold Jiggly. And they're like, that is fantastic news, Jim Cameron. Who is it? And he's like, it's Tom Arnold. They're like, that is horrible news, Jim Cameron. He's like, why do you say that? They said, well, do you not read the tabloids? He's a crazy person. And Jim Cameron goes, no, I don't read tabloids. But I wrote this movie, and he is the guy. And they're like, well, Jim, we're very sorry, but we cannot approve Tom Arnold for this movie. And Jim Cameron's like, whoa, I'm the one that's sorry because I wanted to make a movie here at Fox. Now I'm going to go down the freaking street and make it at Paramount. And they were like, okay, we'll give him a chance. So I like a probation, like I didn't know this. So the Fox studio execs were coming to the show to the set every day, and I was hugging them. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for picking me. And they were just waiting for me to screw up. But so the movie, after you make a movie like that, it took 7 months. It was so fun. It was also a great thing to do during the period, your last year of a marriage, your last 7 months. Stressful, and I had somewhere to go all over, and I was working with fun people. So then the movie, when we wrapped, they tested the movie, and what they do is they get a big theater and have like 250 people come in. They don't know what they're going to watch. They've got these little things to fill out about what they like, and then all of a sudden the movie comes on. It's a James Cameron movie, and everybody's going crazy. Arnold Schwarzenegger, geez, yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah. Tom Arnold, people booed.
No.
But at the end of the 2-hour movie, when they filled out the comments, I was their favorite person in the movie. So
Wow.
in that 2-hour period, went from hate to whatever it was. And so it really, I doubt that I would have been, our business is, pretty big on whoever the biggest star is wins, and you have to go somewhere. But I also felt great that I'd been the opportunities I'd already had on Roseanne, but that saved me, the True Lies thing. And, it's not that I have made mistakes since, but you don't have to have a lot of great things happen, like a guy like James Cameron going to bat for you, like up risking his whole thing. That sticks with you. And that's a positive thing. Now, I see Arnold all the time because we have a bunch of charity stuff.
Ask him to come on the show.
He does some weird shit, so he might.
Thanks.
But we give out 10,000 gifts at Christmas. Everybody down. We do turkeys, Thanksgiving. We have an after-school program that's raised $1.6 billion. But what it is, we get up on stage together, and no matter who is there, a lot of times there's very rich, fancy people, and we start our back and forth, and it gets, I love Arnold because he will, he's always loved comedians, he loved Milton Berle a lot. Like that's the kind of comedians he loved. But the back and forth just disintegrates into just personal, shameful stuff back and forth about the kind of women we like, and this and that, and things that have happened in our lives. It's very funny to me because he could be this guy like I'm above that. I'm not going to get, but he does like it, and he is a funny guy, and I'm very grateful that we're friends.
Wow. So I'm just quickly one more from me before Sash chimes in. Obviously, you mentioned that, a lot's gone on in your life, from like divorces. You spoke quite openly about addiction and sobriety. Talk to me briefly about the movie Gardens of the Night. That was a very special movie for you to make for a very special reason, and something back then, obviously revolving around sexual abuse that probably in Hollywood wasn't spoken about as much back then as it probably would be now. And we're not going to get into everything that's gone on in Hollywood in the last couple of years. Talk to me what that was like for you, Tom. And obviously you done something, and it was close to you because it's something that you had gone through as a young man.
Well, the great thing about being sober is you can deal with stuff. Because there's always people have things happen, and then if you stay locked up, you really don't have to deal with it. It's part of the reason that we're addicted to things or alcoholic. When I was 4, now my mother left our family when I was 4. She was a maniac. The first drugs or booze my sister and I ever had were from our mother later. So, but alcoholics are tremendously sloppy parents. And she left me. She'd want to go drink it, and she left me with a pedophile, a man across the street. There was a straight up pedophile who raped me for 2 years, between the time I was 4 to 6. And, he was his house was sitting up a little bit. So we'd see my dad's car come home, and he'd have his gun out there. A lot of people I will have guns, hunting rifles with. And he said, I just want you to know how easy it would be for me to kill your father. So it was clear that I could not talk about this stuff. And So later in life, and I did. My dad would be giving me a bath, and he'd say, "What happened?" This, I'd have injuries, and I'd say, "Oh, I was playing in the woods with my brothers, and a tree limb. I guess I slid down it." But I also didn't understand what was going on. You really don't. I knew it was very violent, but we talked about it, especially back in those. There's no like heads up for this. When I got sober, I haven't drank since 1989. I had at 19 years sober. I was cocky about my sobriety, and I would sponsor these young guys that were opioid and heroin guys, and I'd say, I don't get that. I was cocaine, booze. That's that. I don't get this stuff, and I wrecked my motorcycle on PCH and broke my back, and I remember the ambulance coming, and the guy gets out and goes, "Are you in pain?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Not anymore." Gave me a shot of fentanyl. And I remember thinking, "Oh shit, that's what I've looked for my whole life." No, forget the other stuff. And so a year later, on your sober birthday, you get a cake with all your sober friends. And I was taking my 20-year sober cake, and I realized I am still on the pain medication from over a year ago. I am not sober.
Wow.
So I have to start over. So there's been a lot of, but in '89, it was a big scandal because I got in trouble, big and very public thing, and drugs, booze, and Roseanne fired me and called. We were about to get married and called off the marriage. It was a big deal, and so I like, okay, I'm going to go into rehab, and so that people like me again. So I got to get this shit back on track, because that's how manipulative a lot of us are. We're like, so I'm in rehab, and on the 8th day, the counselor said, "Hey, have you ever considered getting sober for yourself?" And I'm like, "No, no. What is that? How do you do that?" He said, "We have to love yourself." I go, "That's impossible." I see the guy in the mirror. I do not love that guy, but I did. I had a picture of myself when I was 4, when all that stuff went down. I carried that because I love that guy, this guy, and he is me. Does he deserve to die like this? I remember, so I called Roseanne and I said, "Listen, I love you. I appreciate you. I know why we're not getting married. I know why I'm not going to write the show anymore, but I'm going to stay here and do this for myself." And she went, "Oh, we're getting married." And I remember thinking, oh shit, if I could have just said the words and not meant it and manipulated her, I would have just called her and said, "Oh, I'm doing this myself." But I really did. So, come out of rehab, you make a list of things that you've hurt people, and that perhaps people have hurt you, and it's after a little while, it's like you look at the sky and you see a bunch of clouds, they all over, it doesn't add up to anything. And then when you get sober, you kind of like, oh, they all come together. You're like, oh shit, that happened. That happened. So my thing was, I want to find the guy. I want to find the man because I didn't want to be back home in my little town at Walmart and have a guy walking behind me saying to somebody, "See the famous guy? I fucked him." So I'm like, I'm gonna take the lead on this. I'm gonna find him. So my 4 younger brothers, who are good at this stuff, we found him, and he was a big businessman, big church leader in Des Moines. That's our big city. And
Wow.
so I was practicing what I was going to say with my therapist, because he's like, you don't want to have him hurt you anymore by you getting arrested and doing crazy, And so we practiced it out, what I was going to do, and then one of my brothers called and said, he's about to adopt his 4th son, and I'm like, oh shit, it's go time. So I fly in there, and I go into his place of work, and the receptionist is like, "Oh my God, it's Tom Arnold," because it's Iowa, everybody. And I said, "I'm here to see Terry." And she goes, I'll call him. I go, "Don't call him. Where's his office?" So I'm walking down the hall towards his office. He comes out of the office and starts walking right up on me. And he's a big dude. I hadn't seen him since I was a kid. So I'm doing my spiel. I'm here to give you back the pain and shame you caused me as a kid. And if you try to do that to me now. And then he comes up, he sticks his finger in my chest. And for a second, I was 4 years old, and I could smell the laundry in his backyard. And the box is sort of a closet that he built a door. I mean, I could feel what it felt like to have my face up against the wall. And then I realized, oh no, I'm not 4. I'm 6'2". I'm a big man. And I took his hand, I bent it back, and goes, "And if you try to do that to me now, I'd break your fucking neck." And so eye contact, he was scared. And all his employees came out, by the way, and saw the whole thing, because Tom Arnold, like every word of it. So I go out of there. I felt like a ton of bricks were off my back. Like it felt so good. Calling Rosanna, calling people, and I thought, have I done enough? So I go over to the state capitol of Iowa, go bust right into the governor's office. I say, law enforcement can't help because of statute of limitations, but here's what I need from you. He's about to adopt his fourth son, so I need you to cancel that. And he's like, Tom, God damn it, that's a federal offense. You're asking me to commit a federal offense, and you asking me is a federal offense. So get the hell out of it. You were not here. Okay. So I leave, and I'm disappointed. And then about 3 days later, my brother calls me and says, there's a paperwork snafu, and he was unable to adopt his fourth son. So I think that's satisfying. But I thought, have I done enough? So 6 blocks around his house then, kid high, we put up posters of his face, his address, his crimes, so that the other kids, everybody could be aware that they tear them down and we go put them back up. We did this. And one of the first things I had done when this first started was go back to my neighborhood, my old neighborhood, and kind of walk around and try to find the boys that a lot of them are still living there, and see if they'd talk to me. And they didn't want to talk because they thought for them, this is a gay thing, which is not a gay thing. A adult is raping you, but they didn't want to talk about it. But their sisters did. And their sisters were very helpful. These are the kids I grew up with. So after I did this, after I went on Oprah Winfrey, and they're like, you probably don't want to say his name. I go, I'll fake a name. So I look right at the camera. I go, I'll call him Terry Williams. That was his name. And 30 other boys came forward, including his own brother, And so that was very satisfying to me. And also, I felt like I've got it off my back. I could live a better life. I want to deal with it. I don't want to be fighting the ghosts from my past. I'm a dad, but you got to deal with it. And then it was dealt with. And then when my son was born, I as he started to get a little bit older, because I think if you've been abused, sexually abused, raped, whatever, violence, you kind of in the back of your mind, if it happens to you as a kid, no matter what, it makes no sense. But you're like, maybe I was a bad kid. Maybe it was me. It makes no sense, but you do carry this thing. And then as my son got close to 4 years old, I'm like, holy hell, that's what I look like? That is awful. I was perfect, just like him. Where were the adults? So that became a big issue for me a little bit. I was having trouble sleeping. And I started taking benzos, they're called, like Xanax. I became my own doctor. And then I had a problem with that. That's a nasty, nasty drug. People don't talk about it a lot. They're like opioids, this other stuff. Oh no, they're nasty. And a lot of times when people die of opioid overdose, they have benzos like in them because it's sort of this thing. You're like, I got to be up. And so I took, and then I had to fly to South Africa to do a TV show. I needed the money. My marriage was over, whatever. I needed the money. So it's a show where you jump out of an airplane in the middle of the night. It's one of these, like, I'm a celebrity type shows. It was only in Australia. So I was like, I'll do this. Plus, there's a lot of money. You jump out of an airplane into the world's biggest game reserve with nothing in the middle of the night, and you live. And I thought, I do need one thing. I need like 10 milligram Xanax. That's the thing I need to survive this. And so when I got back, by the way, I was the first person voted off. People fucking hated me. I was the only non-Australian, and I could not understand a word they said. And plus, they starve you, so you're hungry, and you're right next to everybody, and they're filming. And I had a couple blowouts with. There's a woman on there that's beloved in Australia. She was an Olympic athlete, Olympic swimmer. She's beloved, and she got the silver medal because an American cheated. And it's what she said. Then I was like, I just. First, so we were getting along, and then you're not eating, and then I just was like, "Oh, boo-hoo! I only got a silver because American beat me, whatever." And it's playing, people hated me. Fortunately, I got voted off first. The producers did not want me to get voted off first, but I went back home and I had stopped taking these meds, but it stuck with me for a while. I mean, it was like 2 weeks in, I was still kind of, and I'm like, I can't do this by myself either. So I went to my third rehab, and this place that Eric Clapton has down, very nice, Antigua. But I went in there for benzos which is, to me, it's like, oh, is this a real thing? I'm just going to go 30 days, get my coin, get out of here. The young guys, they put you up into groups of four, and the three other guys were young heroin guys. They're, and they, you're not supposed to be on the internet. It's rehab, but these guys are so clever. So of course they had me on the internet. I could FaceTime the kids. I could, and I saw one day, and I'm not taking it seriously. And I saw in the news one day that a buddy of mine, Chris Cornell, he's a singer.
Oh, yeah.
My home group, nicest guy, funny guy, successful guy. He had hung himself, and I was like, "What in the?" And I called his wife, and she said, "Well, he's on the road doing shows," and she said he started taking Xanax, benzo, and he was messing up. And she goes, "I told him I'm going to call your sponsor. You're going to have to start over, or whatever." And it scared him, as it does. I personally would have waited until I got home. That's just me. And he had a band, the workout band. That's why he had a great body. He worked out very hard. But he would do this thing after every show, and he put it on the knob of his bathroom, whatever hotel he went to, and kind of stretch it. And I know from taking that drug that you kind of have a different reality. Like if you see a band there on the doorknob, just as you're passing through, your mind, it goes, I can hang myself with that, and here's what it's going to look like. So it's a little movie in your mind that's not reality. This secondary thing is playing all the time, and it goes quick. Oh, here's what I do. Just in a flash, So that night, he'd had the argument with his wife. He was feeling whatever he was feeling, and then he went there and did that. So I don't know if he meant to, or if it just took over, and you get deep into something. So I was like, I got to stay here. I have to worry. This is a serious thing. So I do think the thing. I built a San Diego Center for Abused Kids. I do all this stuff all over. It's very satisfying. I talk about it openly. I was the first man that ever talked about this openly way back when 1990 or whatever, because there was a thing like that means you're gay, which is so pedophilia is not gay. And your children. And so to me, it's very powerful to not carry any shame. And if people don't like it, fuck them, And so that's just the way it is. I think it definitely made me stronger. Dealing with all that shit, admitting that I needed help, admitting that has made me much stronger and, pretty fearless. I think I still am that way. So, and it's helpful when you're a dad, you're a single dad. You got to be pretty fucking fearless. You got to get up and going. And my kids I'm 66, man. And I don't know about you guys. My dad was old when he was 40.
Oh, so yeah.
We have to kill it. I'm there. I coach their sports. I give them the attention. It's the two best relationships I've ever had are with my children, bar none. And it's fun and exciting, and they're into it. And I'm learning about them. It's not about me anymore. That's God. It's about how can I facilitate their dreams. I protect them. I keep them safe. But then they come to this planet fully formed. It's my job to figure out what it is they want to do and facilitate that. So it's a great life.
Well, very well said, my friend. Very well said. Go on, Sash.
I don't know how to follow that up, man. I really don't.
I would say one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
This is our society. Okay. We know that it happens in there's a lot of church and stuff where this stuff goes on. People are like, they hate drag queens story hour. They want to ban that in America. Not good for kids, not good for children. But most of the people that rape children, that sexually abuse children, work in a church. They work in a summer camp for kids, or they're people that are campaigning against gay rights. They're the worst people. And what happens is that the Catholic Church has paid billions of dollars, had tens of thousands of kids that were raped. But it happens in every sect, every the Southern Baptist Convention here now has because it does, because you keep seeing it. Your parents feel, oh, I can trust that guy. He's a priest and all. They don't look at these odd situations they put their kids in, along with these adults. So they, but to me, if McDonald's raped 20,000 children, somebody else, it was a corporate thing, they covered it up for years. Their McDonald's would not be there anymore. They would shut it fucking down. Like, this is horrible. And I'm not saying that people can't, you know, have their churches or have their synagogues of Jewish or whatever. But if any other part of society that got away or tried to get away with that,
They'll be closed down.
Like,
Instant shutdown.
over.
Yeah.
Weird.
So with your new film that you're directing and stuff, is there any lessons that you could say that you've learned from directors such as James Cameron, or even who's the guy that did Exit Wound and Cradle to the Grave? I see you work with him quite a few times. What was the difference in their work ethic and how they approach film? And is there anything from over the years of anyone that you've ever worked with that you take on board on doing the current feature film that you're doing for yourself now?
Well, I know your buddy there mentioned Gardens of the Night. I just want to acknowledge that. That's a movie, sure. A pedophile, and Kevin Zegers is my pedophile partner, who's been my pedophile partner since he was 8, and we kidnapped kids. It's dark. It is dark. It was so hard for me. It just felt, but they needed me to say yes. John Malkovich is the good guy in that movie. And there's a lot of young actors who are very good, but I had to say yes to it to get the film financed. Like, I think I could. And the director, the British director, Damien Harris, Richard Harris's son, great guy. He had researched this. There's a place called Children's of the Night down in Hollywood with these runaways. They take care of them. Why do they run away from all? What happened to these kids? So he'd done research for years on it. So he knew what he was talking about and how he wanted to do it. But I felt terrible, doing it. I think it turned out pretty good for a movie. We won the Golden Bear, whatever that is over there in Europe. And, the girl who played the little girl, there's nothing graphic in it. And the girl that we kidnapped that we sold off to, she was very good young actress, and her mom was there the whole time. She's a very successful, heard about it. And she had a different version of the script. So I go in and have these conversations with her, and they weren't what it seemed. And the mom, I remember that we had this really intense scene with the kid at this, hotel. I make sure, like, I take the kids out for ice cream, and they got to see they spent a lot of time with Tom Arnold, that guy from the funny movies. So we do this scene. I walk out, and and the mom kisses me like a full-on. I had a full-on kiss like that, and says, "I appreciate the way you do this. I love it. My kids are." So I'm like, "Oh shit, this is a good deal." But that girl, she's grown up. There's so many times people played by kids in movies or TV shows, and they're adults now, and I can't get over it. Because there's this girl named Rachel Lee Cook who was in a movie I did called Carpool, where she played one of the, I don't know if she was 12, 13, maybe. That's her character. And then
my friend Dan, that's his favorite movie that you've done.
Oh,
he asked, he said to me, make sure you talk about Carpool.
People do like that. They don't like all of it, but they do like it. But anyway, I was doing a movie. She was playing Sean Astin's wife in a baseball movie I was doing. And I was talking to her and said, "Tom, I'm not a kid anymore." The way I was talking to her, "Hey, how's it?" She said, "I have kids." And I go, "I cannot get my head around that, because you get to know someone from playing your kid, and then they're adults, and you always look at, like, I'm sure I always look at my kids like they're kids." So, and the one thing about my kids watching my movies, at first, their mom left the house 8 something years ago. Before she left, that we didn't watch Tom Arnold stuff, but my kids slowly started seeing stuff, and I had the best moment ever. I'm taking them to school. They're in the car seats. My son has his iPad, and he's talking to his friend, whispering. He goes, "Oh my God, my dad is Tom Arnold." Like, the cab in the car, like the ego thing. But they started liking. My son likes.
Wait till they watch The Simpsons.
Yeah, they do. They do, especially my daughter. And we have that little. There's a Simpsons picture there, and whatever your kids like, you're like, "Oh, I really like that." I remember with Simpsons when I did that part. People are like, or they did that show came out. People are like, "Are you mad at the Simpsons for making fun of you?" I go, "That's my voice. No, I'm all in." Yeah. I assumed all the other actors did their own voices, but they did it. Like, you know, so whatever they like. And so my son likes the action stuff. He likes a little bit of that. He likes DMX. He likes the fact that I've worked with Tupac Shakur is a big deal to my son and his friends, or Snoop Dogg, or all these different, but your kids watch this stuff, and then but also my daughter always had a lot, like, is she your daughter too? Like, if their daughter, so
Mm.
you have to explain, oh no, this is what happens. There's a movie she likes where it got stung by a bee in my face, and had a fake had plastic thing in my face, and she cried. It's like, and I go, oh no. So what I did is, she and I got the makeup special effects makeup artist, and she learned how to do that. She was like 4, and so this is how you do that in a movie. This is what happened in real life. It's not a real injury, and so you do have to take a minute, because your kids watch something like, okay, they get it. Well, they don't. It's different. It's different to see this your dad having. They know I've had a lot of wives, so to see me kissing somebody, but it's different. So you have to explain the way it goes, and so it's a big honor.
Wow. Tom, I think our time has come to an end with you, but we're definitely going to get you back on if that's all right, because we want to talk more about The Simpsons. And, like you say, you're now and you're directing. There's so much more that we can get into with you, my friend. But thanks so much for joining us, man. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Have a good
Uh,
one.
no problem. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Completed It. If you want to check us out, just go onto YouTube, type in Completed It Pod in the little search bar, and myself and Sacha will come up, and you can check out all our shows on there. But we'll be back later on in the week with Rico Ross, who was star of the Alien movies and Mission Impossible. He's joining us later in the week. But till then, everybody, this has been another episode Completed It. Stay safe.